Hello, Soul Family. I love you all and I hope everyone's having a good day today. Today, I want to discuss something with you guys that I've found is a profound teaching to help you really be able to experience who and what you are in a rather direct way. And most of the people today in the West view yoga as primarily just hatha yoga, or at the most hatha yoga and with like pranayama. So they see as all these going to yoga studios and dressing in spandex and doing all these asanas and getting their body extremely fit and doing it as like a way to get fit and to exercise really isn't what the purpose of yoga is. And when it comes to who primarily brought yoga to the West, Swami Vivekananda, if he would have saw people all focused on hatha yoga, it would probably have made him laugh, because Swami Vivekananda basically taught that you aren't your body and you aren't your mind even. So to just be overly obsessed with the body, it's definitely not who and what you are. Not to say that we shouldn't stay fit, and not saying that hatha yoga isn't important, but that's not, just using it as an exercise isn't the primary. It's not the purpose of yoga, which is to bring union within you and the divine. So let's see. Today we're going to talk about Gyan Yoga, or the yoga of knowledge. And there's many different types of Vedantic teachings that are taught throughout Vedanta and within Gyan Yoga that basically give you a different understandings of who and what you are. And within the Vedas, you have the Upanishads, and the Upanishads are kind of like the culmination of all the knowledge of each of the Vedas. And within Jnana Yoga, there's a few different methods that's used to kind of break down and let you understand who and what you are experientially. And basically, the only thing that stops us from understanding who and what we are is ignorance, and just having a poor understanding of who and what we are. And in like the Taittiriya Upanishad, they do the analysis of the 5 sheets, and then the Mandukya Upanishads, they do the analysis of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. And I'm not 100% sure with where this teaching actually originated from, but this is the teaching of the seer and the seen, Drashta and Drishyam. But this is like a very beautiful teaching that can kind of pull your awareness back and show you what you actually are, and give you an experiential understanding of the soul, and to kind of see and separate yourself from who you think and that you are, with most people in the world nowadays thinking they are this body-mind complex. But these teachings actually kind of bring the veil back from viewing the external world so much and seeing ourselves as these bodies, and kind of bring your awareness inward to the awareness, so you can see what you are. So with the seer and the seen, it starts out with the eyes or the sense organs as the subject and the world around you as the object. So basically, the seer is, in this point, the eyes, and the seen is all the things that you see around you. And when you look at it like this, the eyes itself, even though there's two of them, the eyes are singular, and then the which is the subject, and then the objects, the things that the eyes observe around us, are many. So there's many different things that the eyes actually observe. And so you have the seer, drashta, which is in this point the eyes, and then the seen, which is everything around you that you see in the world. And this is like the first layer that most people begin to identify themselves with. They see themselves as connected to this world, and a lot of people identify with things in the external world and allow those things in the external world to affect their true nature inward. So people will look at their house or their job and take these external things as part of their identity, and they will feel like if something like, say, their house, they lost their house, say their house burned down, or they lose their job, a lot of people have complete like nervous breakdowns and like lack of identity when the things in the external world are stripped from them that they have identified with, basically. So the first layer of the seer in the seen is like the eyes. The eyes are the singular subject, and then the objects in the world are ever changing and they're many. So that's the first layer. When you actually pull it back to the next layer, you see that the eyes themselves are actually an object of your awareness. So you're aware of your eyes, you're aware of what you're seeing, and also with all the senses, you're aware of all your senses. So when you pull the layer back for the seer and the seer becomes the mind. So the mind is aware of the senses, and the seen are the objects. So the eyes or the sense organs are the many. So you have your eyes, your hearing, sense of touch. So the mind actually knows this external world through those senses. So the mind, when you pull the layer back, becomes the seer of the sense organs, the seen. And the sense organs are many, and the mind is singular. And so that's where the subject object is. The subject becomes the mind, the object becomes the senses. So the eyes, the ears. And those are the things that the sense organs pick up are ever changing, and there's many, but there's just the one mind. And then when you pull for the third layer back, is you realize that you are aware of the mind. So the mind not only is able to be the seer, the subject, the mind also is actually objectified at this point because you are aware of the mind. So the mind is actually an object of your awareness. So the subject becomes your awareness, the seer, your true self, your soul, that is the seer, the witness. And this is something that never changes. It's singular. It's your awareness is always just your awareness. There isn't plural to your awareness. Awareness never changes. Now the mind, which at this point, the third layer back, where it's your awareness and being aware of the mind, your awareness is the seer and the mind is the seen. So the mind is the object when you pull your awareness back. So we have many things that go on with the mind, although on the previous layer before this, where the mind was singular and it was viewing the multiple senses, when you pull back the awareness even more to the awareness of the mind, you see that the mind is actually many things. You only have one mind, but the mind is always changing. It's always in fluctuation. You're constantly going from state of I feel good, I feel bad, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel pain. And these are all senses of the mind. So the mind is actually an object of your awareness. And the things that go on in the mind are always fluctuating. They are ever changing. The same way on the furthest layer back, where all the things out in the world are always changing and stuff, we pulled the layer back to what most people identify with, the body and mind. Now the mind is aware of, or you are aware of your mind. You're also aware of your body. So the fact that you're aware of your emotions, the fact that you are aware of your body, goes to show that you aren't these things. Kind of like when you hit your elbow on something and it's it hurts. You reach down to your elbow and say, my elbow hurt. So the elbow is obviously an object to the I that is speaking in this subject. So the body is definitely, and the mind are definitely objects to our awareness. And in many of the teachings, I heard like some of the devotees of Shankaracharya would come up and say, but how am I the object? Because I feel pain. When I do hit my elbow or something, when I pinch myself, I actually feel the pain. So how is that actually an object? But he would say always, well, aren't you aware of that pain? Well, if you are aware of that pain, then the pain and you are actually different. And this is a brilliant teaching, because most people suffer in this world because they identify with their body, or they identify with their mind even more. And when you identify with these things that are always changing, always fluctuating, flawed, and able to feel pain and misery and to go through stress, when you identify with these things as if that is who and what you are, that's what brings about suffering. But when you actually have the ability to pull your awareness in and to understand that the fact that you are aware of pain goes to show that you are not the pain. The fact that you are aware of the mind and that you can see the different chitta vrittis or fluctuations of the mind show that you aren't your mind. You are aware of it. So there's a separation there. And see, within more dualistic teachings like Sankhya, they have the view that there's like many Purushas, there's many different consciousnesses, all observing Prakriti or nature and matter. And in that first layer of teaching where you're actually understanding the seer and the seen, it makes a lot of sense whenever you're learning this teaching to kind of see it through the lens of Sankhya, of the seer and the seen, and being able to separate yourself as the subject from the object of all the things that are in the world around us and that we experience in the world, whether that even be our own bodies and our own minds. These are things that we are experiencing. They are not what and who we are. What and who we are never changes. What and who we are is eternal. And once this body and mind falls away, we will undoubtedly either take birth again, or if we have exhausted all our karma and we worked through everything that we need to work through in this lifetime to come into self-realization and have knowledge of self, of who and what you are and why you've been incarnating here, why you've been trapped here, and be able to separate the veil of your awareness and your physical being, because we are basically riding inside of this body mind complex. We are not the body mind complex. We are so much more and so much more vast than what most people identify with in this world. We incarnate into this world with a veil of remembrance. So, like, the veil of Maya, kind of blankets and veils us from understanding that we are God. We are eternal, and there isn't some person up in the cloud that is judging us. That isn't what God is. We are God. We are consciousness. And the way that consciousness has filtered itself into separation, into this physical plane to experience itself subjectively, just happens to leave us with this veil of ignorance or Maya, that when we incarnate, we don't remember who we are. Because if we incarnated here and just immediately remembered that we were God and stuff, that we wouldn't be able to experience this place to its fullness. So it's important that when we come and incarnate here, all the memories that have been held within the soul are kind of put behind a veil and allowed to kind of restart from scratch. And it allows you to build a new identity within this world. And the whole purpose of living in this life and building this identity and character that we come to believe that we are, and we identify with it so much that it causes us extreme suffering. But the whole purpose of this is to, once we have built up this character, this ego, and begin to identify with it and think that that's all that we are, that we're just some flesh suit that's, you know, in existence, and that, in a very materialistic Darwinian society that basically is saying that we don't live in an abundant universe, that it's survival of the fittest, and you better hold on to your body tightly because that's all you got, and then you need to do everything that you can to survive, basically. So, and it leaves you in this mentality of scarcity, to where you feel like you have to compete against all your other humans and beings within nature, and it gives you this sense of separation from nature. But it's all for a very beautiful purpose of extinguishing our karmas, being able to just have this experience of separation. Because if we were just back home with Source as God, I mean, we would be all things at all times, no time, no space, pure awareness, just consciousness, and we wouldn't be able to have this experience. So this dreamlike experience is the way that God experiences itself. We're basically in a dream within the mind of God. And like it's like a fractal universe. So that's why the teaching of as above so below is so profound, and you can see it structured throughout the cosmos. So you can look up into the sky and see like these images and pictures and stuff of nebulas and stuff that look like eyeballs and strands that look like DNA. We know that things that happen in the heavens affect down here on Earth, whether it be the moon causing the tidal pull, or if you have an understanding of astrology, that the cycles of the heavens directly affect us down here on Earth. And then also within our individual awareness, there are microcosms of our universe. So within our body, there's tons of cells and particles and stuff that are even tinier fractals of the universe. And it's a infinite, this cosmos goes infinitely in all directions, basically. So all the things that are happening on the larger macrocosmic scale are happening on the microcosmic scale. And yeah, I've kind of came to a brain fart here. But when you have stuff like dualistic philosophy within different Vedantic teachings and stuff, so within the schools of thought with where there's dualism, that there is this dualistic separate nature, and there's the many different souls, um, and there is this actual separation between ourselves and our individual souls and stuff, the many different Purusha to the Prakriti concept, or if you even dig a little bit deeper, you begin to kind of see that even that seer and seen that's seen in these dualistic philosophies are actually all a part of one big whole. And it's actually all just one big play that actually resides inside of consciousness. So it's like the non-dual teachings of Advaita Vedanta. It's saying that all this stuff out here in the external world isn't separate from us, but it takes our identifying and objectifying the self to being in this single little body. That's all that we are. You have to move your awareness back to your awareness, and to have this separation of the seer and the seen, and having the subject object understanding of reality before you can come to a deeper understanding that even that is part of the veil of Maya. that actually the seer and the seen even aren't separate. They're one. And actually, all of us, there isn't individual souls. We all are the exact same soul. We are the exact same awareness. Since awareness is never changing and infinite, then it wouldn't be able to be separate, because there would to say that it's separate says that there's a difference, or the ability for it to be changed. And for something to be infinite, it can't be not everything. So in order for the idea of dualism is something that just happens here on these lower planes of existence. And it's literally just the veil of ignorance. It's a lack of understanding of who and what we are. But the deeper we do different levels of introspection, and I love the teachings of the meditation practice of neti neti, where you're basically saying not this, and you're bringing your awareness from the farthest out all the way in. So you start out with, I am not my job, I am not my house, I am not my car, I am not the way that people in the external world perceive me. And then you move further in, neti neti, not this. Well, I am not my hand, I am not my leg, I am not my stomach. I feel all these things, I experience all these things, so these are something that are experiential inside of me. But that's not me. I'm not my blood, I'm not my liver. That's not who and what I am. These different aspects of my physical being is not who I am. It's not what I am. And when you move further back and you're realizing, okay, well, I'm not my body, I'm not these different aspects of my body, and then you identify with the mind, you say, well, I'm not my thoughts, because I'm aware of my thoughts. My thoughts are always changing. My mind is always changing. The way that I'm not my emotions, because I'm aware of my emotions. And these things are always in fluctuation and change. So the only thing that stays the same is the I am presence that is inside of you, your soul, what you really are. And this is the thing that is not separate from God. And the way that this world is designed with, like I said, the Darwinian mentality of lack and separation leads us to even put us to where we're so materialistically rooted into this physical plane that even when you begin to get some sort of spiritual inkling and you start to look in a more spiritual sense, which always usually starts out with religion as like the plateau of going into a spiritual experience. And these religions always, primarily the Western religions, the Abrahamic faiths, always externalize God and have God as some infinite, eternal being completely separate from yourself that's always looking down and judging you, always putting you through all these horrible trials, and it is the reason for your suffering, that puts you through all these experiences, and that will punish you with an infinite life in hell, or some blissful life in the afterlife in heaven or something. it puts you in this state of separation where you objectify. Like, this is the difference in the seer and the seen. You are your awareness, and you are objectifying God and putting it as something outside of your body that is something separate from yourself, and something that's judging you. And judging and mental constructs only happen here in the physical plane. That's things that are happening within the mind. Judging is something that happens within the mind. If God is pure awareness, pure consciousness, which God is, it doesn't have a objective mind to judge. That's a human construct of these lower aspects of mind. And mind is definitely something that's different from consciousness. The materialistic world would want people to think that consciousness is just something that arrives out of the human brain, that it's all just neurological things happening that brings forth consciousness. But it's actually, that whole idea is just collapsing in on itself nowadays, because they can't prove what consciousness is. They can't prove where it comes from, why it seems to be ever pervading in this reality. And they're having a hard time proving or disproving many profound experiences of people who have experienced themselves outside of their body, whether that be in near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, astral experiences. There's just so much to the subject, but the point of this video basically is that you are not what you've been taught that you are. You are not this body-mind complex. You are the awareness. You are the consciousness that is focusing itself into this vessel and using this vessel as a vehicle. And that's what our bodies and body-mind complexes are. They are vehicles for us to experience the world in. And at a whole, we aren't separate from our external reality. And science is really starting to prove this when it comes to, what is it? Completely lost train of thought, but not physics, but quantum physics. And also when they're doing different experiments, like the double slit experiment that shows that